everybody. Welcome to the final edition of the Foil February JETforce event. Today, we really want to talk about kind of the sales aspect of what Foil can do for your customers. We have spent some time with the designers this month talking about different ways to design for Foil. We've talked about the operation, all the tips and tricks on how to create really beautiful foil pieces, what to be careful of, what kind of foils work the best, how to eliminate some of the easy troubleshooting, even some of the more complicated troubleshooting. But I think what we wanted to do today is really discuss what do brands see, or what do they care, or why should they care about bringing foil embossing directly to their pieces. So I've prepared a presentation for you guys, and what's really nice about this presentation is that unlike a lot of the presentations that are out there that are using a lot of outdated information, the majority of the data that I'll be presenting today really come from either this year or last year or 2023. So much more recent data that I think really works in terms of applying what it is that we want to do. So whether you're out there selling machines like Yuan here, or if you're out there selling the embellished output, it's hard to just sell on wow. You can't just bring a file or a sample or a prototype to a customer and say, look how beautiful this looks. People will not spend money on wow. What people are going to spend money on are data and metrics and understanding what the return on investment is going to be. If I'm going to spend an extra 20 or 30 cents per piece to put foil on it, why should I do that? What effect does that have on my sales as somebody who makes perfumes or honey or business cards or whatever it is that I'm selling? So let's kind of go through the presentation, see some of this latest data that's out there, and see how you can use this data to sell more embellished outputs. So the first thing we talk about, and if you follow what we do at Taktiful and a lot of stuff that we talk about, is the importance of haptics. And what we really focus on is really how first impressions really matter. And so a recent study, I think this was last year or 2022, from the American Psychological Association, came up that when it came to packaging, first impressions are formed in 7 seconds. So really, I think if you're, depending on the type of brand that you are, the type of messaging that you want to get across, if you are going for the low-cost, cheap stuff, chances are you're not going to be trying to put foil on that. If you're trying to position your brand, you're trying to position a customer or a product to be in a higher level or higher perceived value area, you want to do that in the first 7 seconds. Foil has been shown to be very effective in this area right here. 72% of consumers say that visually appealing packaging appeals or influences their product perception. And so this was last year from the American Packaging Association. And what this really means is I recently had a really interesting conversation with one of the biggest traditional foil stamping houses in the world. And really what they were telling us is that many times, and this is kind of how the big brands come to market. Let's take packaging for a second. When they bring a new product to market, a brand, chances are that they're going to want to increase what's called shelf velocity. So many times when you bring a new product to brand or something new, and you go into a store, say Walmart or Carrefour or whoever, their tendency is to start you out on the bottom shelf. If people start buying a lot of that product, which we call shelf velocity, and that shelf starts moving and the products start moving, they bring you up to the next shelf up. And if it still keeps moving at a high rate of velocity, they bring you up until you're in the optimum shelf presence, which is the eye level shelf. That's the one, if you go into any store, the best selling products are going to be on that eye level of the shelf. And what they told us is most of the time when brands will bring in and they want to do something that sells at a high shelf velocity, the first things they do is they will design a package to have heavy embellishments. This could be anything from matte coatings to foil to spot UV to different types of effects. And then once the shelf velocity has been proven, because that helps sell more product, and they get to that medium level shelf, what'll end up happening is they'll do a whole box redesign or packaging redesign. They'll strip off all of the embellishments off to lower their unit cost because now they have what's called customers that are loyal customers that will go. They've tried it for the first time, they liked it, they go back and they keep buying it again. There's no need to really have high-end packaging. So that's kind of something that came out from one of the biggest foil stamping houses in the world. They do millions and millions and millions of boxes every year in terms of kind of the approach most brands take to doing it. If we're looking to reinforcing brand identity, 65% of consumers will associate metallic finishes with premium brand. So that's a 2024 brand packaging study. So remember that is if you put a foil on something, whether it be your packaging, it could even be your business card, it could be your marketing materials, it really gives you that effect of being a premium brand, even if you're not, even if you're just starting out. This is the beauty of digital foil. Um, we see, I spoke to a manufacturer, a small manufacturer who didn't have the money. They only made maybe 1,000 products a month, couldn't afford to get foil stamping dies made. Digital has totally been able to take their small mom and pop business to the next level because they're able to have that premium look and feel on the labels of, for example, their craft beer without having to go out and spend a fortune to do that kind of stuff. We even know some people, and I don't know if this is interesting to any of you, who are using clear labels, so transparent labels on vinyl that they're putting through their jet varnishes, and putting raised clear, putting that directly on the glass, and now the glass has an embossed look and feel to it. So it's almost like to get an embossed glass, it's very expensive to make the molds. It's very, very high end. Small brands cannot afford to do that. Today, by doing clear varnish that's raised on a clear vinyl, you can have a very similar looking effect that looks really, really, really cool. According to a 2023 McKinsey study, luxury goods saw a 15% sales bump when they put foil on their packaging. If you're not using that statistic every time you go to talk to somebody who's doing packaging, I think you're really missing out on something. So being able to attribute a 15% sales bump simply by putting metallic foil on your packaging is a tremendous statistic, something that should really be repeated and I think preached at every single level if you're out there selling embellished products. And then 59% of shoppers remembered foil stamped products, so products that had foil over those that didn't, according to a 2024 Smither study. So when you talk about brand recall, understanding kind of what foil doesn't just kind of position your brand, doesn't make you look nicer, doesn't just make you look more premium, but people will remember you better if you have that foil stamping on your packaging, on your bottle. We see this very often. So we talked about kind of e-commerce. So this is great, right? I'm talking about being in a store or maybe even a mailbox. I'm getting these things, I'm getting marketing materials. But what's happened is a lot of times it's difficult in today's world when so many people are buying things on Amazon, for example, or Temu, or all these different online retailers. It's difficult to sometimes make that connection. Why should I spend money to put foil or embellishments on my packaging when they're not even going to be in the store to be able to see it? And this is kind of where the zero moment of truth, first moment of truth, second moment of truth marketing really comes to mind. We know that e-commerce is projected to do $7.4 trillion this year. That means that $7.4 trillion worth of commercial goods will be sold and delivered outside your traditional retail environment, outside a brick and mortar store. But however, what was really important was that 68% of consumers says the packaging design will sway their purchase decisions. So many times when you're looking on Amazon, they will actually show the package. If they have designed a beautiful package, they will show the package itself. And more importantly, it becomes an experience when that package gets delivered. When you open your Amazon box, that that clear cardboard, or that kind of bland looking cardboard, and you look in there and you pull out your product, and the product has maybe a soft touch lamination or soft touch coating with some beautiful contrasted spot UV and some raised foil. That moment right there is what becomes kind of the clincher in your head that you bought something that's worth it. It's now suddenly it's worth the money that you spent to be able to engage with that product. So the unboxing now has become a major area of research for a lot of these brands and companies because of the effect that those brands can have during that unboxing experience. So we kind of look at like the different mediums. We know that the foil stamping market is expected to grow about 5% a year through 2023. So it's something where it's not declining like a lot of the different other areas. It's actually one of the areas that is showing some solid growth over the next 5 years, according to Grand View Research. There's a 30% uptick in perceived value for craft goods with foil. This is really important, and I think Packaging Digest on their 2023 study kind of hit this on the head. During COVID, a lot of people left their jobs. A lot of people didn't want to work for their companies anymore. It changed a lot of people's mentalities on how they engage. And what we saw was a big rise of small business economy. So a lot of people who worked maybe in a corporate job left those jobs and started making their own honey or their own beer or their own wine or their own soaps or their own, and really you see this on the Etsy economy. If you ever been on Etsy, a lot of people now are manufacturing small batch craft jobs, craft products, and selling them by putting foil on it digitally, being like, I don't have to do 1,000,000 boxes, I don't have to do 10,000 boxes, I could do 1,000 boxes using digital technologies. What they've seen is that by putting that, the perceived value and how much people are willing to pay for a craft product that has foil on it increases by 30%. So you have what's called a very high level of premiumization for small brands. I'm not talking about the L'Oreal's, I'm not talking about the Revlons, and I'm not talking about the Dior's. I'm talking about the smaller brands are able to really increase their sales price and the perceived value of their products for craft products by putting foil onto it. And then finally, 25% of Fortune 500 companies incorporated foil in some way in their 2024 campaigns, according to the Ad Age 2024 study that just came out. So we talk about perceived value. Again, we're going to talk about that 2024 consumer report. What we ended up finding is that people who actually had foil embellishments on their products, on average, so we talked about craft being 30% bump in premiumization in terms of the perceived value. What we found out is that we average it between the large companies and the small companies, perceived value was boosted on average by 20%. But the most beautiful thing is on average, people were willing to pay 63% more for products that had foil embellishments than those that didn't. So if you take a product, and it's funny because this they did a study about 4 years ago, and that number was 32% increase in premiumization. This new one from 2024 from Consumer is now saying that there's, according to their research, a 63% bump in terms of people who are willing to pay a premium if there is foil on that product. So again, you have a product, you want to sell it for a little bit more expensive. You could sell it for maybe another $1 or $2 by putting 30 cents worth of foil onto it. So yes, does it increase your unit cost? Yes, but it also, you can increase how much people are willing to pay for it and increase it through volume. So this is the math I think a lot of brands do, is what is the justification for adding foil to my packaging or to my campaign, and how can I make that work for me? Let's talk about sustainability. I think this is really a really strong point, at least here in the US, and I don't know in the rest of the world if it's as important, but here I could say that a lot of the companies, a lot of the brands who are out there are very focused on sustainability. So if we kind of look at all the raw materials and water and carbon footprint that goes into creating traditional foil stamping, I think a recent study came out said that digital versus traditional reduced of 80% in fossil fuels, 82% of water usage, and a significant drop in consumables from a raw material standpoint compared to traditional. So digital is obviously a very much more sustainable method to do embellishments. And what we found is, number one, 73% of Gen Z, so this is that new generation right now, are willing to pay more money if it's eco-friendly. So make sure that that's clear when you're selling this to your brand. Say, yes, this is an eco foil or an eco type of embellishment that can really help with your Gen Z market segment. A lot of recyclable and biodegradable foil options are starting to gain traction. A new study from the Foil and Specialty Effects came out last year about the pulpability and recyclability of foil products. I think one of the interesting things that they found was that foiled enhanced products can absolutely be detected by the machines in the sorting for recycling. However, if the entire sheet was foiled, like foil board that people print onto, that had more difficulty of being identified because the machines can't read the paper fibers. So as long as you're under like 100% coverage on your foil, which I'd say most foil is going to be between 1 and 5% coverage, it's absolutely recyclable. And then really important too, 12% increase in customer approval ratings for brands using sustainable foil. So this is a really important impact that we want to use, saying that customer approval ratings, if you're able to message around the foil that you're using, and not just saying it's foil, but it's a digital foil, maybe you put it in on the box somewhere, you put it on the back, people will increase their customer approval of your brand, of your identity, if you're able to message on it. So it's not just enough to have it. I think that's one of the big maybe mistakes or obstacles or challenges people have is, yes, it's digital, and yes, it's more sustainable than traditional foil stamping, but people don't necessarily use that messaging to their advantage, where they could be doing that. So we talk about the touch, the emotional connection of foil and what that brings to the emotional side of things. And I think there's no question that if you see a beautiful piece that has foil and glittering the lights in a different way, and it could be a holographic foil, it could be a gold foil, it could be a foil on top of a foil, it brings a different part of your brain out when you see that compared to just a regular box. And what we see is that, according to Harvard Business Review's study from 2 years ago, emotionally connected customers are 52% more valuable to brands. Meaning, if you have a customer who is connected to you, who is partial to your product or to your brand, who talks to their friends about it, who talks to their colleagues about it, that kind of a customer is something that is much more valuable to a brand than one that isn't. 54% of unboxing video viewers, so people who watch this on YouTube or on Instagram or on TikTok, cite shiny packaging as a thrill factor. So shiny packaging, and we're seeing this a lot. I don't know about the rest of the world. In the US and Canada, there's a rise of a big market segment called influencer boxes. So let's say I'm a company, I want to get this new product to market. One of the really great ways to do it is to make a beautiful looking box that's specifically sent to different influencers in the world. And then in return for that, they're gonna say, here's a free version of my product. Please just film yourself opening this product and trying the products out. That unboxing experience, people are putting people's names in foil. People are really playing up the holographic, the gold to bring that premiumization to their boxes. But the Tubular Lab said shiny packaging, which really includes foil, was one of the top thrill factors in terms of people who wanted to watch those shows. And then 47% of people are more likely to recommend a brand after receiving foil embellished products. So that's Forbes 2023 study, which I thought was really phenomenal, which was fantastic. That can you imagine 47% of people saying that they would recommend a brand after receiving something that's foil stamped? And I think that's very telling of the perceived value and what that means to people once they open that product. So one of the questions I had for maybe the group, and I don't know, Yuan, if you can tell us kind of in Bulgaria, I know you're there, what you're seeing, but right now we're seeing a lot of different foil, a lot of different markets heating up for foil. Here in the United States, we're specifically seeing the gaming industry. We're seeing things like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And those types of products. We're seeing the universities that are using it to recruit students and athletes. NIL, for those who know, has really been a big positive effect on what's been going on out there in terms of embellishing recruitment pieces. And obviously there's a lot of different things. The cannabis pharmaceutical industry in the United States, that's really starting to heat up as well. And obviously, I think invitations and general commercial work is following that. So, Yuan, I don't know if you wanted to talk, but do you see any big movements or any trends in Bulgaria in terms of different markets that are heating up for digital embellishments?
So yeah, for sure, we most of our customers are doing embellishments on a packaging. I have at least three customers that are doing embellishments on a packaging, and as you say, most of the work is for those limited series or small companies that are entering the market, and they are for sure they're willing to pay more and willing to pay a great amount of money for doing embellished packaging, and they're successful.
Awesome.
Yeah, one of our customers are working for one brand that is famous here in Bulgaria. One Bulgarian celebrity makes it, and they're doing all of the packaging with foil, and they even upgrade from a 3DS to a big 52L machine to be able to uh, do the work, because they have a lot of print to embellish.
That's great news, Johan. Congratulations on your
Yeah,
customer doing that. That's fantastic.
yeah.
Very good. Thank you for that insight on your market. So let's talk a little bit about the future, where the future of the foil is going. We know that the luxury market's going to reach $1.2 trillion by 2025. We know that there's different foils coming out. There's new sustainable options, the different types of effects that are coming out. I know that MGI is coming out with 10 different new foils to the market. So keep an eye on the different types of foils that are available. I think one thing you have to keep in mind, guys, is if you're out there selling embellishments, this is based on my experience talking to a lot of these different brands. If you're selling to a luxury company, try to pitch the matte version of that foil. So what I'm saying is, if you're going to go pitch to a cosmetics company or to a winery or to something like this, try to pitch a matte gold or a matte silver. they're much more likely to pull the trigger on something like that than something that's very, very glossy. So for them, luxury companies are always going to really want that subtle foil look, not that bling bling for look. So that's one thing that we've really picked up on in the market is the types of companies who kind of appreciate that matte foil. Um, and then other things that are coming out is, there's don't hesitate. We're seeing a lot of people now starting to kind of play with the metallized QR code, and I think that's kind of growing. I think make sure you also use a matte if you can when doing it for the readability purposes. But we're seeing a lot of brands now starting to do raised gold or raised silver QR codes with matte foils that could be variable, which really brings that level of I think specialty home if you're able to create those really really highly bespoke products. So obviously that's something for you guys to keep in mind. All right, so finally, to finish up, it's more than a decoration. If you're out there selling embellishments, guys, don't necessarily just don't sell the wow, sell the numbers behind it, sell the data that's going to help generate this for your customer. One of the big things I always recommend, if you have a close customer that you work with, do a with and without foil campaign. And I'm going to tell you something I never tell people to do. Pay for it. Say, I will do the foil aspect free of charge. The only thing I want in return is I want the data that you tell me what the response rate difference was between with and without foil. And guys, you have to build up your own A/B test case scenarios. You have to build up your own data sets that you can then write a case study. And when you're going out and you're selling foil, you could say, Mr. Customer, I visited a similar customer in a similar space as you 3 years ago or last year. We did a project, we did with and without foil. With foil resulted in a 32% higher response rate or a 25% higher sales rate. Being able to use local data with customers' data that usually they will never share with you is very important. So if I were you, if you're just getting into selling embellishments, call your 2 or 3 top customers, try to find a different industry vertical for each, create a case study that then you can give to your salespeople or you yourselves can use to go out to sell more foil by using actual data, not just the data that's in this presentation, which I'll make available for all of you, but also data that you can generate yourself that then you can use to upsell jobs and make that cost justification an easier conversation. So that being said, I think that's the last slide. Johan, did you have any questions or any comments that you wanted to make on today's little lesson on how to sell foil or ideas on how to sell foil enhanced products?
I don't think so, because yeah, and the A/B test and paying for to just to make a sample with foil. I can tell from my previous work, because I worked as a print manager in one digital printing company.
Very
And
cool.
we invested in little NGI, and I can tell that it works.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with data. And last little tip and trick I have is make sure your samples kit is really, really well prepared. And if you can, if you have a sample where you're showing customers what you can do, always do one side with the embellishments and the other side the exact same file, but just CMYK. And let the
Without.
customer immediately see the difference and understand psychologically what it is the difference in his mind and how that can translate to their customer. All right. Well, listen, it's been a pleasure spending time with you. We're looking forward to a very fun end to Foil February. We'll be sending out the recording of today's session, and we look forward to seeing you all next month for a new session, which will be a new month, which the theme will be Spot UV. So next month, we're going to go deep down into Spot UV. We're going to talk about all the great things that we're doing on selling it, on producing it, and designing for it. So looking forward to seeing everybody. And remember, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the forum. We're all here to help answer any questions that you might have. That being said, thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Yuan, for coming.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.